Greetings, welcome to week 4. This week we're talking about A Doll's House and A Raisin in the Sun. I just want to be clear about what the response paper and discussion are for this week. So for the response paper 3, which is due at the end of this week, you should discuss at least one of the following in regards to A Doll's House: plot, character analysis, setting, place and or culture, structure, point of view, theme development, tone, imagery, use of simile and or metaphor, symbolism and or allegory. I just want to be clear that A Doll's House is what you should be focusing on for the paper this week, because there was some confusion about that. However, for this PowerPoint, I want to focus on theme development because I noticed in your posts last week that was coming up a lot. So it raised some questions for me, which I'd like to address. Some themes to think about in A Doll's House. Two of the big ones, I think, are marriage, especially as it concerns women, patriarchy, gender roles, and also class. How is money, wealth, and reputation? How are these things operating? There are other themes you're welcome to think about and write about. I just want to go over some questions very quickly regarding these two. What is the play saying about marriage? Your whole paper, you could write a whole paper just making an argument about addressing that question, right? What does a healthy marriage look like in this play? Is Nora a good wife for staking her reputation to save her husband's health? Is she a victim of patriarchal culture by being passed like a doll from her father to her husband? What does Torvald value in a marriage versus Nora? Does the play suggest Christine and or Krogstad and Krogstad will get married and be happy together, or is the play offering a more cynical message about this institution? Another theme you could talk about is class, and particularly how it affects gender or relates to gender. How does gender intersect with class in the culture of this play? What critique is the play offering about class and its influence on social norms? So some questions to think about to address this issue include: what kinds of relationship do Christine and Nora have with money versus Torvald, Dr. Rank, and Krogstad? What kinds of work are the women doing in this play? What kinds of work are the men doing in this play? Some other things that came up in discussions this week, which I think would make for interesting papers. You could address any of these questions. For characterization, what does it mean that Nora, the protagonist, commits the same offense of forgery as Krogstad, the antagonist? I think it's interesting, a couple of you talked about how the binary between protagonist and antagonist seems to become blurred in this play, particularly around Nora and Krogstad. How are Nora and Christine similar? How are they different? And what is the function of Dr. Rank in this play? Not too many people talked about Dr. Rank in their posts, but he is a character, and we could consider what he's doing in this play, if he's serving a symbolic function or what. Symbols in the play. What does the Tarantella dance symbolize to Torvald? Is it just a thing another way that he likes to make Nora dance for him, so to speak? And what does it symbolize for Nora, especially as she sort of sees it as a countdown to her planned suicide, right? And plot. How does the play make use of dramatic irony? What is its effect? I'm thinking here particularly in the case of Torvald and how he's kind of the last one to know about this secret of Nora borrowing money from Krogstad, right? The discussion for this week is focusing on A Raisin in the Sun, and here's the discussion question. It's very specific this week. In what ways does the dialogue between Benitha and Asage that opens Act 3 of A Raisin in the Sun advance the theme of the play that prepares us for the ending? So some things to think about. Again, this is also focusing on the theme. You can sort of decide what that theme is. But I think in relating to sort of the Langston Hughes poem, Harlem, which asks, what happens to a dream deferred? A dream deferred is sort of manifesting itself in several different ways, particularly in this scene of the play. So if we think about these two characters, one being female, one being male, um, they seem to be representing a number of different things in this scene, right? Assimilation to American culture versus flight or returning to Nigeria, right, or Africa. Um, Realism versus idealism, innocence versus experience. They're both sort of illustrating different facets of those two things in this scene in different ways. Progress versus retrogression, hope versus despair. Beneatha seems to sort of give up on her dream in this scene of becoming a doctor. And they also have a conversation about death, a meaningful versus a meaningless death. So there are a number of different things that these characters are each representing in this particular scene, which you could think about. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Some other questions to think about in regards to this question, though, are who has more power in this household, the men or the women, particularly in thinking about how the play ends. Mama kind of gets her way in the end of this play when Walter decides not to actually try to get the money from Mr. Linder. So, what is at stake in the family's move to the house that Mama bought? Is another question you might want to think about addressing in your posts. Anyway, I look forward to reading your posts. I hope this helps clarify what's expected of this week, and I look forward to reading it. Thanks.